Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to Grant Writing for Scalable Impact. My name is Tosh Brooks, and I am the Small and Medium Sized Business Program Coordinator at the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center. For those of you who may be new to us, the Nasdaq Center is a nonprofit dedicated to helping entrepreneurs access the knowledge, mentorship, and resources they need to start and grow successful businesses. Today's session is designed for founders who are actively building and growing their businesses. Whether you're still refining your business model, managing cash flow, expanding your customer base, or figuring out how to scale what you've already started. Running a business often means making big decisions with limited time and resources. Our goal with today's program is to share practical insights that can help you move your business forward with greater clarity and confidence. Before we dive in, I'm going to launch a few quick polls so we can get a sense of where everyone is in their journey. We use this feedback to help shape the programs and resources we provide for this global community of entrepreneurs. While you're answering, feel free to drop in the chat where you're joining from today. We always love seeing the ranges of places founders are dialing in from. We'll also have live Q&A at the end of the session if we have time, so please feel free to submit questions anytime using the Q&A feature. And while the poll is running, I'd like to briefly recognize the partners who make these programs possible. The work we do at the Nasdaq Center is supported by organizations including Nasdaq, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase, KPMG, Walmart, the Asia Innovation Hub, Wilson Sonsini, the Nereid Foundation, KKR, and BPM. Their support helps us expand access to resources and knowledge for entrepreneurs everywhere, and we're grateful for their partnership. Now, let's get started. Let's see where we are on these polls. The first poll was, how are you feeling? How are you feeling? The second poll was based on current events. Are you reimagining your go-to-market strategy? Are you reimagining what you do? And then the final poll that I see is still getting a few answers. What's keeping you up at night? Is it finance, sales, marketing? Are we thinking about how to scale, pivoting, your team, or are we focused on surviving? I see we have about 51% that are worried about finance, coming in with about 25% of sales, some marketing, some surviving, and some are thinking about how to pivot. So without any further delay, please join me in giving a warm welcome to our moderator, Cami Taylor, Director of U.S. Small and Medium-Sized Business Entrepreneurial Programs and Head of Volunteerism at the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center.
Thank you so much, Tosh. Well, hello, community. Welcome to Grant Writing for Scalable Impact. Today, we are going to talk about optimizing your grant writing strategy to unlock funding, amplify your mission to scale your impact. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to our special guests. First, we have Tiffany Stewart, who is a founder and CEO at Birthright Consulting Group. We have Shereese Floyd, founder and CEO at AI Consultants for Nonprofit. Deidre Gantt, grant strategist, founder at All Right Consulting. And Kia Chatmon, founder and principal grant strategist at Heart for the Community Consulting. Welcome, everyone. In addition to being experts in this field, these wonderful founders are also graduates of the Milestone Circles program. Milestone Circles is a 12-week immersive programming experience designed to help founders accelerate their leadership and achieve significant strategic growth. And it is free thanks to the generosity of Wells Fargo. And so if you want to learn more, we have the link for you inside of the chat. You can apply to the Milestone Circles program or just reach out to a member of our team. All right, let's get started. So we're going to set the stage for a moment and go around with these first couple of questions. Kia, I'm going to start with you and then I'll move over to Tiffany. So many founders see grants as a one-time opportunity rather than a long-term strategy? How should entrepreneurs rethink grants as a part of a broader funding and growth roadmap? Kia.
Well, thank you, Cami, and I'm happy to be here with these illustrious other grants professionals today. I think one way to see it as a longer term strategy is to look at those elements in your business that you are going to need over the long term. So whether it's technology, whether it's professional memberships, professional development for yourself, what are those things that grants could support in your business over the long term? So instead of thinking like there's this one thing coming up, what are those ongoing aspects of the business that grants might be able to support?
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Tiffany.
Yes, definitely agree with Kia. I think one of the strongest organizations from my experience use grants strategically alongside earned revenue, right? So alongside revenue, partnerships, sponsorships, contracts, and community trust. And grants become a part of a larger ecosystem and not the entire business model because when people come to me and say like, oh, they're relying on grants and that's it, it's like it makes me so nervous because like grants are great. But I think about grants as a cherry on the top and not necessarily the whole cake, right? So when you're thinking about a grant in your business, instead of asking, how do I win this one grant? I think founders should be asking, what outcomes can we consistently demonstrate? What partnerships strengthen our credibility? What systems help us track impact, and maybe like how does funding connect to long-term growth, right? Just as Kia was saying, is really thinking about your business long-term in the future. And I think one of the things that I like to start with my clients is mindset, right? Again, grants are cherries on top. They're icing, they're extras, right? But they're not our entire business model because, like, even if we are a nonprofit, our goal is to make money while we make impact.
Hmm. Now you're gonna have me saying that over and over. Grants are the cherry on top, not the whole cake. Did y'all catch that inside of our community in our chat? Grants are the cherry on top and not the whole cake. All right. Shereese, Deidre, do y'all have anything that you all want to add?
I would echo very much what Tiffany said. I think when we're talking about a long-term strategy, I see so many people who come to this work, grant writing or wanting to win a grant, with a very scarcity mindset. They need it. And if you are going into it needing it, you're already out of alignment, right? As Tiffany said, it is the cherry. So you need to have diversified funding and then grants. Think about how much time it takes to write a grant. A lot of entrepreneurs need to be putting a value on their time. How much time does it take you and or your team to write a grant? And then ask yourself the value that you're putting into it. Are you going to get that value back from this grant that you are investing in? Always go with a grant that is aligned with what you do, not chase something, contort yourself, try to make it work. It has to be aligned. It needs to be some diversification, and there has to be real value for what you're going to get in return. So if you're chasing $5,000 and $10,000 grants, but it takes you and your team $15,000 to $20,000 of your time in order to do it, that may not be the grant that is aligned for you.
I think everyone has hit some really key points. One thing that I would add is because you asked about long-term strategy versus a one-off grant. Some people, well, some grant makers will only fund you once for 12 months. So it makes sense that you would think of it in a short term, but there are grant makers that like to form relationships and they might fund multi-year grants. So you can also look to the relationship that you're building, the credibility that you're getting, not just from your partners, but also from your funders. So it might be a grant, not, and this is totally not contradicting Shereese, but if it's a grant that's small, but it's from the Ford Foundation, then and it's going to bring you a lot of clout or a lot of leverage in the future, it might be worth that time. So I would measure the return in terms of the dollars, but also in terms of the impact, in terms of reputation, in terms of relationships that you can build over a long period of time.
Thank you for sharing. Deidre, I'm going to stay with you just for a minute for this next question. And Shereese, I'll come back to you. From your experience, what separates founders who consistently win grants from those who struggle, even when they have market validation?
I'm going to piggyback on what Shereese said just now because I think it's very, to me, selecting the right funding opportunities. A lot of people want to just flood the market with proposals and see what sticks, kind of like throw up against the wall and see what sticks. But if you are competing with people that's their natural lane, they're naturally like what they do is organically aligned with what their funder is seeking to fund, as opposed to either you're trying to chase the money and do something that you've never done before, which there is money out there for people that are innovating and doing new things. But if they're specifically looking for, say, youth development, and you're a human rights organization, but you need money, so you feel like, okay, how can I jump into this lane? Well, you're jumping into a lane with a lot of people who are already in that lane, who are already expert. So I think the people who win are people who find what is already aligned with what they're doing, and they really stick to that as opposed to trying to be all things to all funders.
Oh, thank you. Shereese?
And I would just add that entrepreneurs or anyone who's applying for a grant needs to really be able to articulate what their theory of change is. It is really easy to say that you are in the marketplace providing this type of outcome, but if you cannot speak to it and you cannot prove it in how you are talking about it, it really falls by the wayside. So you have to know, why do you exist and how are you moving the greater community with the product or service that you're offering to the world, and being able to articulate where that solution is. What is the solution that you're bringing to this ultimate problem that's being solved? And when people can really truly speak to that theory of change and speak to it in a very convincing way, then that goes a long way to help them succeed.
Awesome. Thank you. Kia, Tiffany, anything that you would want to add?
Yeah, I definitely agree with what everyone said. I would say most of the times founders are very passionate. Probably some of the most passionate people that you will meet. Because when you have an idea and you give birth to it, passion is just like one of the things that come along with it. But what I see with people who consistently win is that there's clarity and they have the operational readiness. So, I think funders are looking for that. They're looking for, can you clearly communicate the problem? Can you clearly communicate the solution? Do you have the ability to measure what you're doing, the data, the strong data piece that like we all talk about, but it's not the easiest thing to get, but it's so necessary to prove what you are doing and your effectiveness. And then I will also say like the ability to execute responsibly and show strong outcomes. Because at the end of the day, a funder is thinking about how will this make us look, or what will our investment have to show, right? And that's really what they care about at the end. So if you can prove and show that, then that is what's going to help you to win. And directly aligned to what Deidre was saying, like you're able to do that best when you're in your zone, right? So no one can be you better than you in your zone than you.
Awesome. Yeah, this next question is for you. While your work focuses on primarily on helping nonprofit organizations build long-term grant programs, there are clear overlaps in what makes organizations grant ready. What foundational systems or processes or signals should founders prioritize when they're pursuing grant funding?
Right. And actually, this has been alluded to in the previous question, but I would say systems, right? Having your systems in place. Um, there are, as I tell my clients, so in the nonprofit world, I have my clients develop what I call a master content document. And what that is a document that contains the majority of those questions that they're going to get from a private or a corporate foundation. And it's a place where they have come up with their story, how they talk about themselves, the language that they use. It has those answers. It's actually a document and has links to the attachments that are typical of applications as well. And I would say there could be there's a parallel to what you as a business owner would have and would need for a grant application. I'm betting that the majority of the questions are going to be similar. So you should have your story, your language, how you talk about yourself in that one document. The attachments, probably your balance sheets, your profit and loss. So just one place so that you're not starting off from a blank sheet every time. And because a lot of times we learn of things quickly, someone sends us something and it's like, oh my goodness, it's due in 2 days. But if you have something like that in place, you're not starting from a blank. Now you might have to do some tweaking around word limits or even add, maybe there's something particular to this particular grant that you need to add, but you have a starting point. So I think that system, that document, those attachments, kind of having those in one place where you can access them quickly as you learn about opportunities. And again, understanding that they might need to be tweaked. You're not starting off on a blank sheet.
Thank you. Thank you. Tiffany, you often emphasize building fundable organizations, not just writing strong proposals. What foundational systems or signals do funders look for that entrepreneurs should be developing?
Yeah. One of the things that I would say in this work is that funders are constantly evaluating risk, right? And so even when they don't say it directly, one of the things that I always tell my clients is like, we have to listen and listen well, right? It's such a like simple thing, but I think a lot of the times it can be a lost art because we're looking at the parameters of something. We're trying to like execute on this thing or that thing, but like what are we really trying to say? What are the people who we are serving trying to say? And then whose attention, the people who we want, the attention that we want, what are they saying to us, right? Even when they're not directly saying it. And so when we think about being fundable, it's not about looking good, it's actually about being good, right? And there's a big difference because, especially with like Chat GPT and like, all the different great tools that we have that help make this work easier. It's easy to have a clearly articulated, neat answer. But what's not easy is to have the discipline, the accountability, the structure, and the operational things inside your business. And you do it every day. The daily things that make it a business that's growing. What's not easy is being an entrepreneur or being a founder and not working in your business all the time, but working on your business sometimes. So those are the different things. And when you think about being fundable, it's actually about like very similar to like the personal work that we do, like the healing, going to therapy, doing the things that we pouring into ourselves, the resets. It's the same thing. In your business, it's literally the same thing. It's looking at your business objectively and saying, okay, where are my weak spots? Where are my strengths? Where are the things that I need to work on? And chipping away at those things with a actual plan of action and staying with it, like going to the gym or whatever goals you have, right? It's literally the same day. You want to be fundable, then get good at being good.
Thank you. You brought up ChatGPT, OpenAI, AI, period. We are in that age, Shereese, and coming to you. You work with organization using AI to secure grant funding. So where does AI add the most value in the grant process? And where should founders be cautious about over relying on it?
Yes, I love this question so much. I absolutely love this question because it's one that comes up a lot. Because you have two different kinds of people. It's like AI, and people who are like, I don't touch that. I don't mess with that, right? But you have to have balance. And I always say to people like, use AI because it's a great thought partner. Just don't let AI use you. Right, because the thing with AI is that although it's like great at like analyzing and like quickly reading text and giving you summaries, the human element that actually like is at the root and the heart of the work that most of our clients are doing is you still need a human for it to tell the story, right? You still need that human touch, that compelling narrative. Like those things matter. And like the truth of the matter is no matter how efficient AI is, like it does not have the things that make this work special, right? And demonstrating that. And so that is what I always tell my clients, do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to use AI, right? Do not go ahead. Do not be afraid to use AI, right? You have to just be sure that what questions that you are inputting or the data you are inputting, that it's still original to you, right? You listen, I can't even tell you the stories of when I'm using AI and I see it just made up information. I'm like, and I go back and ask it, I'm like, did you just make that up? And it's like, yeah, I made that up. And I'm like, well, why would you do that? And and that's an example of like relying too heavily on it. Don't be afraid to use it because it's great at helping us think beyond our own perception and perspective. At the same time, it cannot replace the human element and the compassion and the compelling narratives that are necessary for the work that we do.
Yeah, seeing yourself through it. Shereese, what do you think?
Yeah, so the question was, where does it add the most value and the over reliance on it? So it adds the most value because it reduces friction. Kia talked earlier about one of the ways that she helps them reduce friction is having a content bank of sorts to get people off the blank page. Sometimes you can still have a content bank and still need it to reduce that friction. And so we know that writing grants is a very time intensive process. And no matter how many times that you've done it, many times when you sit down to do another one, you don't want to. So AI is there to help ease that process, whether it is a first draft, whether it is your second draft. Everyone has to decide in terms of how they want to use it, where it comes into their process. AI is a tool until it becomes a system, until it becomes a process. And so a lot of people, when they're using it specifically as a tool, they are not really training the AI to be able to be something that they can rely on because it's a very generic back and forth. So the over reliance on it comes from when you allow the machine to think for you, when you allow the machine to be your judgment, when you substitute your own judgment for whatever the machine says because it sounds good or it reads good. Our brains weren't designed for all of this information. And if you ever, I call it an AI hangover, where I will sit down because I work in it all day long, and you sit down and you're like, I can't even think. I can't even hear myself think. I don't even know what I think because I am using this. And so when you are getting into your grant writing process, the machine is only as great as you make the machine. It doesn't know anything about you. You are it. So we cannot relinquish our humanity to this technology. And when you're talking about building your your life around something like this, you want to be very, very careful and making sure that you have done your due diligence because the information that it gives you might not be true. So do not write a grant on false information. And that's, yeah.
Information for a grant. Okay, Deidre, this is good. Because I think this kind of goes in a little bit of this next question for you. When we're thinking, so Deidre, you work on both sides of the grant process. So when funders are looking at and they're reading proposals, what are they looking for and what causes them to quickly disengage? Can they tell it's AI? No.
So I'll start there. Sometimes they are using AI to detect AI. So, the mirror in the mirror. So yes, sometimes they are disqualifying if it's overly AI. Sometimes if it's AI at all. The RFP, very often that's a request for proposal or the NOFA, the notice of funding availability. Those are the documents that come from the funder. So that's the funder in their own words explaining to you what they want. Often in that document, they'll have a rubric or a scoring sheet or a scoring guide that'll tell you we're going to give you 30 points on your program narrative. We're going to give you 15 points on your budget. We're going to give you 10 points on your budget narrative to explain these numbers and how the numbers connect back to your plans and your what are you trying to do with the money that you're asking for. So read that. That's your first line of defense always. Is your RFP or your NOFA for that funder. Uh, this is something like, as we talk about AI, if you want to feed it into the AI and ask the AI, like pull out the key points to make sure I'm not missing anything, or put in your draft proposal and the RFP and ask it where are the gaps. So those are some ways that you can use AI to support you without actually making it right for you. But to go back to your question about what they're looking for, one thing that I do want to clarify is the funder that you apply to, it may not be their staff that reads it and scores it initially. Once you submit it to them, they may have a panel of community people that are reading it, panel of practitioners who are reading it. So don't write it too narrow thinking that you know who's in the room, because you don't necessarily know who's in that room. You don't necessarily know how much they know about your industry. So kind of like aim for the middle. Someone who is intelligent, well read, knowledgeable, cares about the organization that you're applying to, but they may not know the jargon and the terminology for your particular organization. So did the proposal answer the questions within the word limits, meet the minimum requirements to be considered? That's the first weed out. Is if it's too long, they said 8 pages and you gave them 10, out. They said these expenses or these activities are not fundable by us. We don't pay for food. We don't pay for scholarships. We don't pay for travel, and you included those in your proposal, out. So did this person adhere to the basic guidelines that we gave to everyone? Or did this organization do that? Then second will be the inner logic of your program. Does it make sense? Does the timeline, the budget, the outcomes, do those things match with what you're actually saying you're going to do? Can you do the program that you say you're going to do for the budget that you say it's going to cost? Do you have enough staff? Not too many staff where it looks like you're top heavy and you're just trying to give everybody a job. Not too lean where you want them to think, hey, we can do what really costs $100,000 for $25,000, because then you're going to struggle to get staff. You're going to struggle to keep staff. And people who are reading grants are looking at those type of things. Do these numbers match what they're trying to do? And is it really a need? They know that's subjective. That's very subjective, because what one person considers to be a critical need, someone else might consider to be fluff. So you can't really predict that. Next would be capacity. And Tiffany spoke to this earlier. Can your organization do what you say you're going to do? do you have expertise in this area? Or if your organization is brand new, does your staff have expertise in this area? So that they can trust, like if they're giving you $250,000 or if they're giving you $10,000, can you handle the requirements of reporting back about that money? Can you actually handle the management of those finances? And then once they've kind of like those, I would say are the basic kind of qualifying to get into the final pool. So let's say they had 100 applicants and they've narrowed it down to the top 30, but they only have 15, they only have space to fund 15. Now this is where it gets into how aligned are you with what their mission is. They're asking, have we funded something like this before? Have we funded in this location before? Is this going to reflect well? Which of these programs will reflect the best on our organization and will make our, whether it's shareholders, if it's a private organization, or our board of directors, what is going to reflect well on us? And then finally, like Tiffany said, risk management. Because at the end of the day, controversy can be okay, but ethics is never, like, they don't want to fund unethical organizations. They don't want to find people that are likely to fail. Not your program didn't get as many people as you expected, or you didn't sell as much as expected, but you just like had to stop. Like you had to like pull the plug halfway through.
Okay, community. I need a big deep breath. I don't know about y'all. Let me know in the chat.
Did I dump on you guys?
Tiffany, no, Tiffany, Shereese, Deidre, y'all just gave us everything. Yes, this is fire. I love it. It is so good. It is the specifics y'all are giving us, writing, applying. I know y'all use AI and y'all thought about all these things that we were talking about. But Kia, we need your help right now. Grant research, all of that, and all of this that we're talking about, the writing, all of this is so overwhelming and time consuming. So how can founders efficiently identify the right opportunities instead of chasing every single grant that comes up?
Right, right. And I forget if it was Shereese or Tiffany that kind of spoke about this at the very beginning. Again, my perspective, work with nonprofit organizations, but now looking at it through an entrepreneurial lens. In a nonprofit sector, it would be mission creep, right? Because people see grants, and because it's a grant, I want to go for it. It's not exactly what I do, but it's kind of what I do, so let me go for it. I think there that we have to be very careful of that as business owners, to look at who we are, who we serve, where we serve, who we are even as a founder, and look at the opportunity through that lens. So making sure it is not only your industry. Is this being sure this is a grant that's available in your area? Are they looking for certain types of founders to support, or business owners? Is it for women? Is it for Black women? Is it for a certain community? So before you invest too much time and energy in writing, make sure being clear on who you are, where you are, what you do, so that you are only pursuing and really have an eye out for opportunities that align. I think that alignment for who you are and what you do. So being clear on that. And I was actually literally just on a call the other day, and an entrepreneur said that. She said she saw this opportunity and she knew she could do it. Actually, she had gotten clearer on her niche and kind of her business. But when she saw this opportunity and she saw the amount, she's like, I could. But then you had to think about your business development and your strategy and the energy that you have. Have you said, this is going to be my lane? This is what I'm going to do. And don't creep out of that lane just for the grant, just for the money, but really stay true to who you are and make sure that it can support that, and that you're not, trying to fit a square peg in a round hole just to pursue the funds.
All right, that's good. That's good. Okay, so I'm also thinking about, okay, is this worth it, the money, Tiffany? Like, can I really get money? Like, how much money are we talking? Tiffany, you have helped organizations unlock millions in funding by combining storytelling with strategy. So, what makes a narrative truly compelling to funders, and where do founders fall short?
I love this question. And it kind of, Kia made me think about something that's so important that I didn't say, but I'm gonna make sure I answer it in this question. So I think step one, as far as the narratives go, we need to just break up the vision. Like, break it up so people can understand it. And this is something Deidre also talked about. So like, get clear on the tangible outcomes, get clear on the timelines, the partnerships, the measurable milestones. Like those things, I think oftentimes like we know them, but like we need to really think about them and parse them out to make sure we're not missing anything, because when you're doing the work and in the work, you're very close to it and you're not thinking about all of the great things that you're doing. The second part where I've seen the difference between where money, because this is the thing, it's relationships. I have seen the same funder tell one client, we only have 30,000 to give, and then give another client 3 times the amount, right? Not because, a lack of integrity or, a lack of interest, or they like this person, but it was just relationships. And when you have a relationship with someone, you're able to communicate what you do, your vision and all that stuff in a different way. And it makes a difference. So people began to move on your behalf. Maybe they only did have 30,000, but they're finding the money now because they made a phone call to someone else and they found some marketing dollars they could use, or they found, a business lines of credit and different avenues outside of a foundation or whatever it is. And so like I can tell you relationships move the room. Sometimes a funder will say, you know what, we only have 30,000, but our partners are coming out with something in 2 months at the end of the summer for an RFP. I'm going to introduce you now to have the conversation with them. So when that RFP comes out, they're already looking out for you and like you get the bigger money, right? They may even tell you about another organization that they're helping for a pool of funds where you could partner, and then now you're splitting the money with the organization. So the relationship aspect is so key, and it helps you, one, not waste your time, right? Because I mean, if you could read the room, then like, okay, this is like a good thing. And you'll know if someone is really feeling your stuff. It's like, oh, I'll introduce you to this person. Here's this person, contact this person, and they'll tell, and when you have a relationship with a funder, they'll tell you what they want to see. Even outside of the workup, right? That's on the online, the general things they give people. They'll say, you know what, we really are interested in financial literacy for youth. Like we really feel like this is important this year, and we want to make sure we have some orgs that are representing that. Right. So then that way, if you're a financial literacy org, you can say something. But if not, then you can think about how do I incorporate or intentionally partner with an organization to include this, if it makes sense, right? We don't want to do mission creep. We don't want to do anything that we don't do. But like it gives you, the relationships give you insight, and the relationships open doors that were not open before. And so I think that's a big part of like getting your narrative ready and in the place that it needs to be, is if there's any chance you could develop a relationship with a funder or engage them in some way more than just them reading your narrative, it's going to make the difference.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, there's a lot of AI conversations going in the chat. So let's see, Shereese, if you can help with this. So I know you emphasize governance over just using tools. So how can founders implement AI in a way that strengthens and not weakens their organizational capacity and decision-making?
You really have to think of yourself. I know a lot of founders, a lot of us women business owners are a team of one. You have to think of yourself as a team. So when you are using AI to be able to strengthen, you have to look at it as the way any other big organization would look at it, and think about it from the top down instead of the middle of the action. That what we do when we open it up and type something and get something back, that is not about strength. This is not about speed. AI is not, it's built for speed, but as founders, we should be thinking about organizational efficiency. So there are 3 things that you need to ask yourself as a founder as you get into this work that is around strategy and not tools. What part of this organization or this business will remain human? What part of this organization is human and AI will be collaborative. And what part of this organization am I comfortable delegating to AI? Now, we know that if you're delegating to AI, it still technically will have a human involved. But you need to know what part of your operating system AI is going to be a part of, or AI is not going to be a part of. And from that, you need to draw up a policy just like any other business. You need to know, it needs to be documented. It doesn't have to be long, but it needs to be documented so that you know, and anybody who you bring in knows, any consultant that you bring in knows that they can't dump your information into a system and give you the work product back because your policy says this, and this. That is what the first thing you have to set it up as a strategy. As I mentioned before, AI is a tool until it becomes a system, until it becomes a process. When it becomes your process, it is documented. And everything, you need to be able to stand by how you're using it, how your team is using it. You need to be able to stand by the outcomes. This is not about being able to solve for everything that could go wrong. It is about you thought about what could go wrong, and this is the potential solution if it should go wrong. So for teams of one, AI can definitely grow your capacity, but the biggest challenge that I see founders have in this is that when you think that it is meant for speed and you can now write something in 2 hours, what initially took you a week to write, you're not really optimizing for speed, because what do? You take that time that you saved and you dump more stuff on top of it. And so now your capacity just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs that are burning themselves out faster with AI. So you strengthen your organization by treating it like it is one of the top organizations and laying that founder strategic foundation so that you can be able to get out of this tool rat race process and start using it for real strategy and efficiency.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to just go ahead and say the thing, Deidre. Shereese says, what part of your business should be AI? And I think we've learned today that explicitly grant writing should not be one of them. So, Deidre, let's be real. Many founders have struggles with grant language. And so not overcomplicating their writing, how can we communicate clearly and powerfully without losing credibility?
All right. So, fun fact, last century, when I first started writing grants, I was denied my first grant I ever wrote because they said it sounds like poetry, which my background was creative writing. And I was so passionate, like you said, Tiffany, about the passionate founder, the community, the youth, and the children, and we're going to make a change, and things are going to be so much better. And I did what I tell everybody to do: get your feedback, because they denied me. And I went and I got the feedback. And what they said was, it's too flowery. It's too, like, it wasn't trying to be like grantees, right? It was trying to, be change making and world developing, and but this is a blueprint document. This is not just, this is a blueprint. I don't even need to give it another word. This is, I'm going to show you what I'm going to build. I'm going to show you how much it costs. I'm going to connect the dots for you. So your goal is not to sound smart. Your goal is to be clear and thoughtful, specific and thorough. And you don't need to have grant language per se to do that. But it is a good idea when you go through the RFP, highlight, those key terms, and you can incorporate those into your grant when it makes sense, into your proposal. Reflect their language back to them, reflect their priorities back to them when it makes sense. But you don't need to, you don't want to overuse jargon specific to your group, because again, sometimes I work with artists, and you might be a painter, but they might be, if it's a general arts grant, there might be dancers, there might be filmmakers that are reviewing, there might be just art patrons that are reviewing that don't necessarily understand your drill down organization or your drill down product. So you want to keep it at a fairly understandable level. And you want to focus on specifics, not general. Use specific language and number ranges for your objectives and your outcomes. Use SMART goals, of course, and make sure that they can see the who, what, when, where, why, and how in your proposal. They should be able to walk away and know, oh, okay, they're planning to roll out at this particular time. They're planning. I prefer quarters to like really hard fast dates because things change. But they plan to do this. This is how many people they plan to serve. This is where they plan to do it. This is who they plan to work with. This is where or how many uh, whether it's a product development or if it's a service, this is the life cycle. Like that, they want to see the evidence that you thought it out, and then they can just write the check and you can go off and do the blueprint that you've given them.
All right, this is great. Uh-oh, someone in the chat said, this is my favorite class. I love that. Let me know. I mean, I feel as if we need a part two, part three, because I think that we already did one like a while ago, but we need another part. If y'all need to want to hear more, let us know in the chat and tell us what you want us to cover in the chat. Yeah, a series, right? Okay, this is good. I only have like a few more questions. I know we only have like 10 more minutes left. Yes, it can be. All right, Kia. So for small businesses with limited resources, how can they balance the effort required for grant writing with other critical business priorities without burning out?
I feel like I'm beating the same drum, but it's just I think it's the answer. It's the systems, right? It's the systems. It is to what's been said earlier about, and I've been watching the chat pop up, and I know people are looking for like resources, but where do I go? But I think what hopefully you're getting from this is kind of what you need to think about in your business to have set up. So once you do find those places that you're going, you have the systems, the language, the clarity in place so that you can be successful when you pursue them. So to prevent the burnout, again, I think knowing how you talk about yourself, having as best you can, the answers to those most frequently asked questions together, so that you're not scrambling when you do find out, because I know there's probably tons of folks on this who somebody gave them something yesterday that was due today. So, having your language, having your documentation, and another thing, so I don't know if this so much speaks to burnout, but once you do identify the opportunity, Deidre referred to her, what'd you say, Deidre, last century? I guess I've been in this about as long as you have. Earlier in my career, I made the mistake of not reading thoroughly before I pursued an opportunity. And I was in it. I was answering questions and then got to a question and realized this doesn't apply to me. But I'd already put in this time to that, up to that point. So I would say once you have identified an opportunity, read everything, including the fine print, to make sure that you are eligible. Again, going back to the industry, the location, the size of your business, the age of your business. Are you checking all those boxes so that you are, you are eligible, so that you don't put in that time only to find out, to get to the bottom, that there's a requirement that you aren't quite there yet. So that can help to relieve some stress. This is a kind of I guess it would have been I think a takeaway. Even if you do find out about an opportunity late, so in addition to that master content document, I would say keep a spreadsheet. Well, a couple of things. I would say keep a file of your applications. I was actually in conversation with an entrepreneur and asked her about previous applications she had submitted. She couldn't put her hands on them, so she kind of did them and would submit them, but didn't keep copies for herself. So keep those copies so that you can save time with future submissions. So you always have that to go back to. And then a spreadsheet of opportunities that you find out about. Because most likely, even if you've missed a deadline, that opportunity will probably come up again. So you can have it in a tickler to remind yourself of that opportunity you can use. And this might be more last entry than this entry, but Google alerts, set a Google alert so that when that drops, when a story's told, you're flagged about that opportunity, or your favorite AI. We've been talking a lot about AI. You could have your AI, go out and find an opportunity that speaks to that business, that company that has put that opportunity on the street in the past. So when it comes up again, you're ready. So hopefully that answered.
That is great. We love something actionable takeaways. And so I'm going to actually move on into our final question, where we get to all go around and share one takeaway. What is one, if entrepreneurs were to take one strategic step today that would meaningfully increase their likelihood of securing grant funding, what would you recommend they prioritize and why? So whoever would like to go first on that one.
I would say prioritize clarity. And it's rightfully so. I think Milestones does a really good job at this, is like getting clear, right, on the things of your business. And so funders, people who give money, investors, sponsorships, all of that stuff, like they tend to move toward organizations that can clearly articulate not only what they do, but how they will sustain and scale. That is usually at the root and at the bottom of what they're looking for. So get clear, like take the time to get very clear, on your audience, on what you do, who you serve, why you do it, how you show it, how you measure it, how you know it's working, like all these different things. Get clear. And the clearer you are, I guarantee you, the more you will attract the money opportunities, or the easier you will identify which ones are best for you and be more successful.
I'm going to answer it from a tech perspective, since AI is pretty hot today. And I'm going to piggyback on what something that Kia said. So for all of you who have the paid version of ChatGPT, you can do this in Claude as well, but it's not as straightforward. So we're going to just talk to our ChatGPTers right now. Open your ChatGPT and have it do the research for you, and have it send you the research either daily or weekly, because researching good grants takes just as much time as writing them. So you want to talk to it about what your business is, who you are serving, what problem you're solving, what state you are located in, the type of money that you're looking for. You want to put in exclusions, the type of money that you're not looking for. You want to set that up in your task and have it be inbound. So it's not something that you're going and looking for every day. And you want to trigger ChatGPT to do the deep research that you're looking for, things where it's analyzing the data versus giving you a list of nonsense that you have to wade through. That is one thing that you could take away from this right now in front of the computer, and set that up and start getting into the habit of looking to see what funders are looking for and setting yourself up for success.
I see some mind blows in the chat. Was it just me just now? Did she just say, and they have it sent to me? All right, who else wants to share?
I can go next. Mine will be up your data game. Tiffany talked about this a little or a little earlier, but start tracking. Start thinking about what are those metrics. There's outputs and there's outcomes. Outputs are how many people showed up. Outcomes is what changed. What's better, what's different. start tracking those things. Even if it's just a survey monkey, even if it's just a paper, start tracking. And you can improve your tracking as you go. But you want to be able to show what you've done already, show your track record, and then you'll find yourself able to secure more funding because they can see that you have results. They want to see measure, demonstrated impact.
Yeah, anything you want
So
to?
much good information shared already. I don't know. And then the drumbeat I've been giving throughout this, I don't know what else I would add. And Shereese just did a mic drop with teaching, how to send AI out there. But I will say, I know I'm not far from the AI expert, but I know there's always no helpful to have human in the loop. So I will say that I know our contact information is being shared, and while we we didn't talk about specific places and websites and things to go, if people want to connect with me, I'm happy to share some resources and websites where you can start. I did see some good stuff shared in the chat. I'm sure your AI will find some stuff, but maybe this human in the loop can share something that might not be aware of. So hopefully that would be a helpful tool for some of the folks on this webinar.
Oh, Kia, Deidre, Tiffany, Shereese, thank you so much for being here with us today, sharing your time, treasures, expertise with our community. We are so incredibly grateful. And I'm going to go back and talk to the team about and message you about a part 2. So we will be in touch. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and pass it back to Tosh.
Ladies, thank you so much. That was amazing. Thank you for taking the time to speak to our community, share your insights, and set such a great overview. On behalf of the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center and everyone in attendance today, we sincerely thank you for joining us. That was phenomenal. I felt all of the chills that everyone else was feeling, especially when we started asking for a series. So thank you, thank you, thank you. To everyone who joined us today, we would love for you to join us for our upcoming webinars where you can view on our website. But I do want to plug one, our Capital Compass webinar next week, May 19th at 11 a.m. Pacific time. We'd love to have you on that and catch all of our additional webinars on our website. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We look forward to welcoming you back online with us soon.